Hey, can you hear
How's
me?
it go? I can hear you. How's it going?
Good, good.
You told me this is the first time you've used Zoom.
Yes, yes, I definitely try and keep away from this kind of stuff.
It's just
But here I
amazing
am. This is
that
special.
in like a pandemic, like Zoom for most people is just sort of like unavoidable. But
Right,
yet,
right.
but yet you've managed to just live in this amazing bubble where Zoom is not a part of your life.
Oh, I
I'm,
haven't
I'm,
gone out much either.
I'm so jealous. All right, so for
Uh,
people who don't know who you are, could you give us a little introduction?
yeah, well, my name is Brian Chankin. I run Deadly Prey Gallery. Um, I don't know what else. I formerly ran a video store in Chicago called Odd Obsession Movies. And that's kind of my background into how I get into this world, I
Eh,
guess.
So so tell me about the name Deadly Prey, because that comes from something, right?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, Deadly Prey comes from a movie. It's from
Jenkins just
1987.
stood up and put his hands in the air. Like,
Yeah. And it's an awesome movie. It really kind of defines what I think these movie posters are all about. It was one of the first movie posters I ever saw, actually.
mhm.
It was
the,
one by
the Ghanaian version or the regular version?
yeah, actually the Ghanaian version. I was aware of
Oh,
the movie. I had it in my video store. We had the VHS,
mhm.
and it was popular, and I always really liked it. But then I saw the movie poster in Ghana, the Ghanaian movie poster for it, and it just spelt out everything to me. It's like,
and
okay,
then
well,
you
this has that energy.
and then you're
Um,
like, I'm gonna build a business around this.
well, sure. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was cool that this movie that was cool in my video store, maybe to about 20 different people in my world, at the time, especially. And then in Ghana, it's kind of just like The Matrix or Rocky or Rambo or Terminator. It's in the same element as those movies.
Wow.
And that's just awesome, to see that everything is kind of on the same level, I guess, and the
Sure.
budget doesn't matter. So I always thought Deadly Prey kind of went a really long way with their budget, especially.
So for those of you who are unaware, so Manny from Special Ed Toys previously took a meme, the Alien versus Predator meme, and he made his very successful Michael Jackson versus ET set. And so I was trying to figure out, we had previously worked together for a Darth Vader figure, where you had Farkira do 40 Darth Vaders. The one I kept was, can you grab the ones in the other room? The one that I kept was Darth Vader battling the shark. And I just thought that
Awesome.
that was amazing. And we're just trying to figure out, like, what could we do next? And because of the nature of the Ghanain movie posters, um, they just seem to have all of this carnage. And so it just worked out that, like, having a Michael Jackson and ET just battling in all of these unique pieces were amazing. Here's the ones I kept for myself. Here's Darth Vader battling the shark.
Okay.
And then he's got a rifle. It looks like, I don't know, can't even. And then he's got a knife battling some sort of lizard. So my introduction to Ghanaian movie posters, well, let's just assume that people watching don't know what a Ghanaian movie poster is. Can you just talk about, like, the early video clubs and how the posters were made, and just give a little history of it?
Yeah, sure. Well, it started out because movies in Ghana have always been very, very popular. So when VHSs came out, I guess later when DVDs came out, it was a thing to gather and watch these movies. American movies were imported, so were Hong Kong movies, so were Indian movies. These are all kind of easy to find. And later, Ghanaian and Nigerian movies kind of became, or their native cinema became a thing. But early on, it was all of these other movies. So what happened is they'd actually get a truck together. And in that truck, they'd put like a VCR, TV, movies, all that kind of stuff. Go to a like a town square, usually in villages without electricity, and they'd set up like these makeshift cinemas.
Wow.
And they became very, very popular. They became so popular that they'd maybe have like 2 of these companies in one town at a given point. So it wasn't like, okay, well, I'm just going to go check out whatever movie's playing. You actually had a choice now. You might only have money to see one movie. So, you needed something to advertise it. Well, that was the movie poster. And that's when these artists came into play. So this traveling cinema came about maybe in the mid 80s, shortly after, maybe a year after, these movie posters started coming about, and these artists started making these crazy renditions on 2 sewn together flour sacks. So the flour sacks sewn together would measure around 40 by 60 inches, usually, sometimes a little bit bigger. So it's like these mammoth canvases outside of these makeshift cinemas that might be in a town square, might actually just be outdoors. Oh, I forgot. Inside the truck, there's a generator too, so everything is just generator powered.
Right.
But
I mean, can you imagine just being from a town that has no electricity and someone pulls up a truck and you get to see like Commando or some like, crazy, like you see the Matrix for the first time, like.
Right. It was groundbreaking because movies didn't exist in people's houses. You couldn't just turn on the TV. You couldn't just put on the, this was pretty high tech for the time, actually, having a working VCR and VHS, and then the idea that you could actually watch it outdoors.
Sure.
It's just crazy.
Was it on a tube TV? Like.
Yeah, they'd usually have it on a tube TV, and then later, when projection technology came about, they started using projectors.
And then were they able to run this off a battery? They have to have a generator.
It was usually a generator.
That's fucked up, because like that's loud.
Yeah, it was really loud, so you'd have a lot of extension cords. So it set that generator up pretty far out. And this is how it was probably until about 2006, 2007.
Wow.
So we're talking about a good like 20 to 25 year period where this type of cinema is taking place. And these artists had these crazy ideas, not only from watching the movie, but from what the cinema operator, who was the guy that would actually drive the truck. So the guy that would actually drive the truck would kind of whisper in the artist's ear and explain to him what he wanted on the scene that he thought would sell. So just like anything, the movie poster is just an advertisement.
Sure.
But they try to make the advertisement as crazy as possible, because there's nobody telling them not to.
Right.
So I think that's where the spirit of it all came from. And also mix that with kind of any sort of superstition, or any sort of religious things that you might think, or any of this. It's all in the art. So
Sure.
that's where you get that's where you get all of these things kind of intermingling. And
but when did it become okay just to throw stuff into the poster that was not in the movie, like just snakes and like demons? And
I think that was as soon as they started making them as an advertisement, that was fine. I think that kind of innovation just kind of went without saying. And then
I love that that's called innovation. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that just was there, and then the actual video operator would then kind of explain how far to exploit this, or how little to exploit this. Maybe make this one just the characters, because not all of them are crazy, and it's something
Right.
like, actually, on the Instagram site or whatever, whenever there's one that doesn't have a bunch of snakes or monsters or isn't like straight up wild and
Mhm.
it's more traditional, everyone's like, well, what's wrong with this? And
Right.
nothing, you know what I mean? Like sometimes they are like that too.
Mm.
um every once in a while, you know, a movie isn't, you know, just the actual artwork is enough. Like I guess Stallone and Cobra, they just use that classic, that classic what, like that classic Stallone pose with the match in his mouth or whatever.
Sure.
And that's just every Stallone you ever see is that, and that's enough. And you don't really got to add on to that because it's Stallone and you're going to see it anyway. So
Right.
whatever. Yeah. Uh,
So the first time I was exposed to it, so there was that guy Ernie Wolf, was that his
yeah.
name? So he was owned a gallery, and I don't know what he sells, like other kind of art, pottery or something. And he must have
Yeah.
been, was he in Ghana? And he started collecting all of those original ones from the 80s that
Yeah.
I can only assume people were just throwing out. Like, and he was one of a few collectors that really, um, really gobbled up a lot of that early work. Is that correct?
Yeah. There were a few people that did, and I know that he got quite a bit of it. Uh,
And then he published a book. What was the book?
he
I forgot
did
the name.
extreme canvas one and
Extreme
two.
Canvas, right? And
Yeah.
that, I mean, so for any of you out there who are into books, that Extreme Canvas book is worth it, just to see all of that original stuff. But he
Yeah.
kind of, I've had, you know, conversations with him, you know, because I collect Star Wars stuff, and I asked him that the only Star Wars stuff that exists, I think, was from that era, because it was post, you know, 70s, was
Yeah.
I think an Ewok movie, like
Yeah.
Caravan of Courage or something. And
Yeah.
then he showed me one from one of the newer movies that I wasn't really interested. So those video clubs sort of go away at some point. You said about 2005, 2006. So
Yeah.
how do you become the focal point for this scene and the agent for all of these artists, and seemingly the only person providing Ghanaian movie poster art to like the world now?
Yeah, well, you know, there's still a lot of things going on locally that I'm not involved in, of course.
Mhm.
We actually are, so we started out working with about what it was 5 artists at first.
Mhm.
So we've been around about 9 years now. So we started working with five artists, and it turned to 6 the year after. And then today we work with 10 artists.
Wow.
So that's only 10 artists of 100, you know, well, maybe about 100 artists who were working at one point.
Right.
Obviously, around the time when the video club stopped, and you know, it wasn't really that they weren't making money to actually make these for advertising,
Mhm.
and didn't actually wait out that period and start making them for art. You know, a lot of the artists actually ended up taking other jobs and not making these anymore.
Sure.
I'd say, you know, at one point, yeah, one point in the 90s, there probably were about 100 artists working. Today, there's maybe about 20 to 25 artists working.
But are they?
So,
But they're mostly working for people like you, for collectors, or they're actually working
uh,
promoting movies?
well, movies are being promoted to a certain degree. You know, for mostly for the Nollywood and Gollywood movies, they still make posters for those.
I see.
To actually sell the movies, or to actually you know, to actually see the movies. But as far as guys who make, like, you know, a lot of guys make these sort of posters still, and then sell them to, you know, one dude in Ghana. That
Mhm.
one dude in Ghana actually sells them then to other distributors. So he
Mhm.
might sell them to a dude on the East Coast who, or he actually does sell them to this guy on the East Coast who also sells like masks and figurines.
I see.
And then he'll come by and also have some movie posters, you know, and he'll travel from place to place and kind of set up shop.
But
So
for the most part, the work that's being produced is, except for the Bollywood movies that you were talking about, they're not being used. I mean, are, has it changed how you said it ended 2005, 2006. Did it change, the technology change for how they're seeing movies, or did electricity show up, or are there
Um,
actually movie
well,
theaters or TVs?
it was a number of things, and that's why I say like Ernie Wolf might argue that it all ended at around 2000,
Hmm.
because I think in Accra, then people started getting better access
Hmm.
in the bigger cities. In the small towns, though, there still wasn't much access, so it lasted a little bit longer. So till about like 2005, 2006. At
Hmm.
that point, I feel like electricity might have caught up a little bit. Enough people were able to get online too. You were able to actually buy a VCR DVD player for a decent price and a television for a decent price. So home viewership increased.
Right.
Kind of all of these things came together around the mid 2000s, I think.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what stopped that. And then the artists who still wanted to do it kind of turned it into, this is made for art now, and we have to rely on other people buying this now, not just the video store or the video club owners.
But
Um,
given how long it took, so I got 6 pieces from you recently, and it took,
yeah,
I don't know, 6 months or a year. Like, it seems
yeah.
like these artists that you're working with are kind of working at capacity, no?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're very, very busy, and they take they take their time on their pieces too.
And so
Yeah.
if someone so just for the people watching, can you talk about how, if someone has a favorite movie, like what do? They give you a call and just tell you, like, can we talk about the process and the price and how, you know,
Yeah, sure.
because for anyone watching, like, I really recommend you follow Deadly Prey on Instagram. It is a mind-blowing experience. You get to see all of these people's, which are essentially commissioned work, and every once in a while something just crazy happens. Ian here was talking about, it was the Beethoven poster, the one with the dog,
Yeah,
which is like the
yeah,
shittiest American poster, the close up of the dog's stupid face. But this one, it has like fangs. And what else was happening? It was like, if the dad's head was on a plate, it was like, what?
yeah, yeah.
This is like, that was, yeah. So can you just talk
It's
about
the
the
subtleties,
process?
the
the,
subtleties.
the subtlety, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, if somebody, it's a 6 month to 8 month wait usually. That's from when we put the idea together
Mhm.
to the actual poster being ready to, being ready to ship to you. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you want one of these made for your favorite movie, you can surely do it. The guys will try to watch the movie. I feel like they usually don't, uh, which is definitely okay, because like, whatever. So what I usually ask is for people to submit a couple photographs,
Mhm.
even a couple clips of maybe things they might like, maybe a scene from the movie. But essentially, the artist has always based it off of photographs.
Sure.
Um, Even back in the day, the video club owners would actually Xerox them a picture, and then they'd be like, okay, try your best to do that.
Right.
That was part of the fun, probably, and that's probably why you get some distorted people. Also, is just from the base images they're using.
Wow.
I guess today the images we use are better quality.
Uh,
Um, so 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 it goes a long way, and things are, you could see, I mean, some of the stuff today, like the stuff by Heavy J, it could be super realistic. Uh, it could also be incredibly rough, like you'd see
Sure.
Farkiras. It's like a really, really loose style.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, someone reaches out, it's around $600 usually for a 60 by 40-inch painting.
It's insane.
Um, for something half that size, it's 450. If you want, like, yourself in it or something like that, it's a little bit more. And if you want to
Mhm.
make merchandise out of it, it's a different rate. Um,
So, so what did you think, like, when I called you and I was like, "Hey, I want to make action figures." Like,
Yeah.
like that was
Well,
that took a little explaining to
yeah. I mean, yeah, you had to really, well, I don't know, you didn't really have to convince me because I already thought that's cool.
uh
Uh, but I just had no idea how. I just was like, well, what the hell? Because this is a new world for me, and
right.
I'm just so one-dimensional these days. It's like, well, movie posters.
And then
That's all.
there's always like some issue with the translation. So a lot of these, which I
Yeah,
think is just phenomenal, is how like the leg is cut off right there. So I sent a photo with roughly where the blisters would be,
yeah.
and it seems like he stopped painting. You see, the it just stops. Uh,
Yeah, wow, I
all
didn't
right,
notice that.
and there's a lot of them that they just stop
That's
right where the
hilarious.
blister is, and then it seemed like someone said, no, no, you have to paint the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing, and they didn't
yeah.
continue the leg, they just painted background. Or I
Awesome.
mean, Salvation did, like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
and
Well,
then
yeah, I mean, and that very well could have been Kofi, and Kofi, my partner in Ghana, is really the modern day video operator.
mhm,
You know, and he'll hang out with these guys. And I know with Salvation, he told me, he's like, well, Salvation really needed a lot of direction with this.
mhm.
You know, so Kofi just kept giving him ideas. Like, okay, well, try this. So while,
It's like
I
try
definitely
Ninja Stars.
so I
Try nin
definitely credit Salvation with all of this, but you know, you can't. I've got to credit Kofi too, because I know he's sitting there just
because
right. Yeah.
because what's going on there?
It is so
Yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this is a huge hit. Out of the 30 pieces, I think there's how many left after Mark Todd bought one? Is that 4? So I think there's probably only about 4 left, and
Oh wow.
you
Awesome.
know, it's just
That's great.
magic. And I can always tell when other artists like Mark Todd, or there's 3 left, are texting me like while we're talking, like, hey, pull that aside for me. It's like you can
Nice.
see the excitement of the other artists, and
It's great. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it was a really cool idea of you to actually think that, to come up with like the backing as an actual painting. I wouldn't have thought of that. I guess that is a thing in toys these days,
It,
but
yeah,
it's so cool, you know.
I mean, it's something, I'm sure it existed, but it's something that we started. We just put out this zine,
Yeah,
not to
sick.
talk about this in every single interview, but today, but I'm going to, because we just published it. But basically this artist, Jason Chalker, Manly Art, he did 24 portraits of a Boba Fett action figure.
Yeah,
And there's all 24 of them. And then we glued the figure down, and this was in 2013.
yeah,
Um, and that just kind of proved, and it was the same price point, it was $150 back then, and we were worried. We
yeah.
didn't know. It's like, it's cheap for a piece of art, but expensive for an action figure crowd. And we sold out in 2
Right.
days, and we're like,
Sick.
this is a thing. And so
Yeah.
I've had other artists do it. You can see back here on the wall, there's a lot of hand painted work, but melding the Ghana poster and the bootleg action figure just seemed like a match made in heaven. So
Yeah. I mean, it certainly looks really cool. I can't wait to see what they look like in person.
they're
It's super cool.
exceptionally
Usually I get to touch every piece of art before it goes elsewhere, but these
right.
directly to you. So
That's true, huh? That must be.
I'm having a problem. I'm looking at it.
I did send you that link with the photos of all
Yeah, they look great.
of them.
They look so good.
Well, Brian, we really appreciate your time. You're doing God's work, man. Like, you're bringing Ghana art to like the rest of the world, and it's like my favorite thing to talk about. When people come over, I get to show them this work, and their minds are immediately blown, and they go directly to your Instagram page and follow you, and hope that's turning into some business
That's
for you.
awesome.
But
Well, thank you. And you know that there'll never be a Star Wars painting that sees the light of day before you see it.
well, I appreciate that.
You got to.
I wish that I had space to show everyone the pieces, but it takes 2 people to roll them out, and getting them on this camera would have to wait for another day. But
Sure.
I really appreciate your time. Thanks for jumping in here and talking to us.
Thanks, Steph. It was fun. Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Very cool.